Staff Sergeant Maya Chen had been with the 1st Battalion, 227th Aviation Regiment for 8 months, and in that time, she'd earned a reputation as one of the best weapons technicians in the unit. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she field-stripped the M230 chain gun mounted on the AH-64 Apache, checking each component for wear and carbon buildup. It was a routine Tuesday morning at Fort Bragg. The hangar echoed with the sounds of maintenance crews working on their birds, the smell of hydraulic fluid and aviation fuel hanging in the air. Maya had her headphones in, listening to classic rock while she worked, completely absorbed in her task. She didn't notice Captain Jake Morrison approaching until his shadow fell across her workspace. "Excuse me, Sergeant," he said, his voice tight and strange. Maya pulled out her earbuds and looked up, squinting against the bright hangar lights. Captain Morrison was the new pilot who'd transferred in last week from Germany. She'd seen him around but hadn't formally met him yet. He stood there now, staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read, somewhere between shock and something else. His face had gone pale. "Yes, sir?" she replied, straightening up. "Is there a problem with the bird?" But Morrison wasn't looking at the Apache. He was staring at her left shoulder, at the unit patch sewn onto her flight suit. It was distinctive. A black and gold embroidered insignia featuring crossed swords beneath a lightning bolt, with the number 229 emblazoned across the top. The 229th Aviation Regiment. The Ghost Riders. Where... Morrison's voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat and tried again. "Where did you serve with the 229th? Maya felt a familiar weight settle in her chest. She knew that tone. She'd heard it before from other veterans who recognized the patch, who knew what it meant. "Afghanistan, sir. Helmand Province, 2019 to 2020. Morrison took a step closer, his eyes never leaving the patch. "Were you there for Operation Crimson Dawn?" The hangar seemed to grow quieter, though Maya knew that was impossible. The same crews were working, the same machinery humming, but something had shifted in the air between them. "Yes, sir," she said quietly. "I was there." Morrison's jaw clenched. For a long moment he didn't speak. When he finally did, his voice was barely above a whisper. "November 15th, 2019. Forward Operating Base Sentinel. 2 Apaches went down after an ambush. The QRF couldn't get through. Taliban had the roads locked down with IEDs and RPGs. The crews were trapped, taking heavy fire. Everyone thought..." He paused, swallowing hard. "Everyone thought they were dead." Maya's hands had gone still on the chain gun. She knew exactly where this was going. "But someone came." Morrison continued, his eyes now locked on hers. "A single Humvee driving straight through hell. A weapons sergeant and 2 privates who'd been at a satellite checkpoint 5 clicks away. They heard the mayday and they just went. Drove through an active ambush, pulled both crews out of the wreckage under fire, kept them alive until the medevac could land." He took another step closer. Maya could see his hands trembling slightly. "The pilot of the 2nd Apache, the one that took an RPG to the tail rotor, his name was 2nd Lieutenant Jake Morrison. That was me. I was 23 years old and I was certain I was going to die in that desert." Maya felt her throat tighten. She'd spent 5 years trying not to think about that day, trying not to remember the screaming, the fire, the sound of bullets pinging off their Humvee's armor, trying not to see the faces of the men she'd pulled from that burning wreckage. "The sergeant who led that rescue," Morrison said, his voice thick with emotion now. "They said her name was Chen, Maya Chen. She dragged me out of my Apache while it was on fire. My leg was broken, I was bleeding from a head wound, I couldn't see straight. She threw me over her shoulder like I weighed nothing and ran through a firefight to get me to cover. Then she went back for my gunner." He paused, running a hand over his face. "They put her in for a Silver Star. I was medevaxed to Germany, then back to the States for surgery and rehab. By the time I could walk again, her unit had rotated home. I tried to find her, to thank her, but I was told she'd left the 229th, transferred to a different unit. I never got the chance to..." His voice broke. He looked away, composing himself. Maya set down her cleaning rag. Her own hands weren't quite steady. "You don't owe me thanks, sir," she said softly. "I was doing my job." "Your job?" Morrison let out a sharp laugh that held no humor. "Your job was to maintain weapon systems at a satellite checkpoint. Your job wasn't to drive into an active ambush to save pilots you'd never met. You did that because..." Because it was the right thing to do, Maya finished. Because you were my brothers in arms and you needed help. That's all. Morrison shook his head slowly. That's not all. You saved 4 lives that day. My gunner Martinez, he's got 2 kids now. The other crew, Captain Walsh and Lieutenant Hernandez. Walsh is teaching at Rucker now, training the next generation of pilots. Hernandez just made Major. We're all still here because of you. He straightened to attention and rendered a crisp salute. Unusual, since she was enlisted and he was an officer. It should have been the other way around. I never thought I'd get the chance to say this, Morrison said, his voice steady now formal. But thank you, Staff Sergeant Chen. Thank you for my life. Thank you for giving me the chance to meet my wife, to become a father, to keep flying. Thank you for being the kind of soldier who runs toward the fire when everyone else is running away. Maya felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. She returned the salute, then dropped her hand. Your gunner, Martinez, she said. How is he? He took shrapnel to the chest. I was worried. He's good. Fully recovered. He's actually stationed at Fort Campbell now. Flies with the 101st. A small smile crossed Maya's face. I'm glad. I've thought about all of you over the years. Wondered if you made it. We made it, Morrison said firmly. Because of you. They stood there in the hangar. 2 soldiers connected by a moment of violence and courage 5 years and half a world away. Around them, the normal sounds of the maintenance bay continued. The clang of tools, the whir of machinery, the chatter of other crews. Finally, Morrison spoke again. I'm going to be flying this bird, he said, gesturing to the Apache Maya had been working on. Any chance you're assigned as the weapons tech for my crew? Maya checked her clipboard. Looks like it, sir. This is my bird for the rotation. Morrison's face broke into a genuine smile, the first real emotion besides shock she'd seen from him. Outstanding, he said. Then I guess we're going to be working together. And Sergeant, I can't think of anyone I'd trust more to keep my weapon systems running. I won't let you down. Sir, Maya replied. You never have, Morrison said simply. As he walked away, Maya turned back to the chain gun, but her hands remained still for a long moment. She'd never sought recognition for that day in Afghanistan. She'd never wanted medals or praise. She'd done what needed to be done, and then she'd tried to move forward, to leave the memories of that burning desert behind. But maybe, she thought, maybe there was something to be said for closure. For knowing that the people you saved went on to live full lives. For understanding that a single moment of courage had rippled forward through time, creating families and futures that wouldn't have existed otherwise. She picked up her cleaning rag and went back to work. But something felt different now. Lighter somehow. The Ghost Rider's patch on her shoulder seemed to weigh a little less heavily than it had before. And when Captain Morrison returned an hour later with coffee, 2 cups, 1 for each of them, and sat down to ask about her experiences with the 229th, Maya found herself willing to talk about it. Not about the violence or the fear, but about the other parts. The bonds formed in impossible circumstances. The quiet pride of knowing you'd done something that mattered. They talked for over an hour, 2 veterans sharing the stories that only those who'd been there could truly understand. And when they finally got back to work, it was as a team, pilot and weapons tech, connected by a patch, a memory, and a debt that could never truly be repaid but could, perhaps be honored, in the way they flew, together, in the way they watched each other's backs, in the way they both understood that service meant something, more than just following orders. It meant being willing to run into the fire when someone needed saving, just like a young sergeant had done 5 years ago in the Afghan desert, just like she'd do again if the moment called for it, because that's what the patch meant. That's what it had always meant.